Hi, and welcome to Business Source, brought to you by Connecting Business. And now for the show that gives you authentic conversations to help your business. No smoke and mirrors, just real people sharing their experiences. I'm your host, Lee Nightingale, and my guest today is a rising racing star that's pushing herself and the sport forward at a very fast pace. I'm delighted to welcome Daniella Sutton. Daniella, thanks for joining us on the show. And your stepmom, Rachel, I understand. Hey.
Thank you for having us on the show. It's a pleasure.
Excellent. I'm not going to lie, I've chatted with a really wide range of people and characters, both from business and all sorts of walks of life, from Alfie Best, the billionaire, to a maths teacher come bird watching tour guide in South America. A real mixed bunch, but this is something very different from me. But I guess if we always speak to those that we know and that have the same views as us, we don't really learn very much. So I'm really excited to hear about you and your journey, and perhaps learn a thing or two from you. So perhaps if you just want to do a bit of an introduction and let the viewers and listeners know a bit about you.
So I'm Daniella, I'm 15 years old, I'm in year 10 at high school. I'm from Warrington in England, Northwest. And yeah, it's just amazing to be on the show and to get my name out there further.
Excellent. And Rachel, what keeps you busy?
What keeps me busy? Well, I'm originally from Bedfordshire, so I don't have the Northwest accent, but I lived up here for a little bit. Lived up here for probably half my life now. But what keeps me busy? My job. I work in a vet's as a receptionist, and Daniella and her racing, and everything that goes on around the racing, to prepare when we go, to clean up afterwards, all the excitement, the highs, the lows, all of it. So yeah.
Fantastic. I'm sure she's very lucky to have you and her father there supporting you. I remember the day your dad gave me a quick call, and I was kind of a little bit befuddled and confused as to why he was calling me, and then we kind of got into it and explained and shared a bit about you and who you are and what you've been up to. And I'd really like to get into that a little bit more, because I felt sort of drawn in by it and really inspired. So I'm hoping the viewers and listeners will feel the same. So let's start at the beginning. How did you get into racing?
So I was 6 years old when my dad took me indoor karting for the first time for my birthday. And then when I was about 12 years old, I got my Motorsport UK license and progressed into the Daniel Ricciardo series.
Okay, that's a big gap from 6 to 12, and certainly going from a bit of a fun time on the indoor karting to doing something on a more serious level, right? And actually racing. I mean, where did you get the drive from to do that? Did you just sort of get the bug and that you had to win every time you went?
So yeah, it was getting to the point where we'd go and I was running like at the front, and I was quite quick on track in the indoor. So we were wondering where we would take it from there. And then we found the Daniel Ricciardo series, and we saw it was an amazing series, all fair, all the same equipment that you race on. So it allows for a competitive grid, nose to tail racing. So we thought that was a perfect fit for us.
Fantastic. I mean, as someone that follows Formula One, I think they need to get back to that kind of philosophy and show the true skill of the driver. Definitely. Being a more sort of larger guy myself, you'd think in karting that I wouldn't necessarily do so well, but every time I go to a karting day with clients or with friends, I always end up winning as well. But maybe that's just a bit crazier than everyone else, and brake later and all the rest of it. So have you got any particular influences, people that inspired you in motorsport, anyone that you particularly follow?
So I say I follow Natalie Decker, who races in NASCAR and has raced in NASCAR Trucks Championship as well. She has rheumatoid arthritis, so the same condition that I suffer from. I have juvenile idiopathic arthritis, but it stems from the same disease. So I see her as an idol because she is at the top level of motorsport in America. Another idol would be my good friend Alicia Palmosky, who I raced with in the Danny Ricciardo series, and then she progressed in motorsport to Ginettas. So I'd see them as inspirational to me.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, let's face it, racing is grueling at the best of times for the fittest of people, right? I mean, look at the condition that Formula One, Formula 3, you know, those guys, you know, the amount of training and exercise they have to do and the punishment they have to put their bodies through, not just pre-race, but during the race. So how are you coping with your condition and the racing? Do you have to take any other particular steps or things that you can't do? Where do you find your limits?
I'd say I have good days and bad days with my condition, but that doesn't stop me. It doesn't prevent me. Obviously, if it's really bad, then I might have to stop what I'm doing, but I listen to like my body and what my body's telling me. But a lot of the time I can just manage it with naproxen or ibuprofen or paracetamol.
I think when she's at a race event, the adrenaline kicks in. So even if she says, oh, my hands are a bit sore, you just sort of go for it anyway. There's just a determination. I think it helps you overcome that pain, because that's what she wants to do. That's what you've dreamt of doing for all this time. So it's a mentality. And I think, like you said, Natalie Decker is one of your idols. If it's kind of someone to look up to. So in my eyes, I think Daniella will someday be someone else might look up to show that even if you have a health condition, it doesn't always have to stop you doing what you love to do.
Well, absolutely. Having a couple of brothers in the military and having seen, you know, the effects of war on some of the guys that have come back, and, you know, they come back and got no legs, and yet all of a sudden, you know, they are competing in the Paralympics, and you just think, how do you drag yourself up back from the depths of something like that? Motivation, self-motivation, finding something that you're so passionate about and that you really enjoy, you kind of lose yourself in it, and it is a, you know, a place to escape. And yeah, huge kudos to you for sort of pushing through those boundaries. Obviously racing takes up a lot of time, i.e. most of the weekend, I assume, with the traveling and the setting up and preparing and practice. And how are you finding balancing school life with racing?
So my school is still vital as it's education, and if my motorsport career doesn't work out as such, I can still take different avenues and be a motorsport engineer instead of the actual driver. Stay in the paddock as well, because you never know, there might be an opportunity someday, even if I don't make it as a racing driver now, I might I might make it further on, but we're hoping we'll make it now as soon as possible.
How about we
really
say that you're acquiring the skills ready for after you've retired from being world champion, and you can use those skills then, you know, because I'm imagining there are some transferable things, learning skills, you know, things that you learn at school that you'll take into racing and vice versa. And I'm thinking maths and, you know, analytical kind of skills that you can use to analyze data on at the circuit, engineering stuff at school, and obviously mechanics. You know, there's so many things. What do you find that you sort of, you're in racing, or all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, I remember doing that in school, or yeah, I'm gonna take that from racing back to school? Any of those kind of funny scenarios?
Well, it's funny actually. I took engineering as one of my options for GCSE, and we do little quizzes on questions or things that we don't know about. And one of the questions on the quiz was, what is a jig? And from racing, I know that a jig is something that's used to align and measure distances. So like if you bend your car chassis, then you'll put it on the jig to measure the distances. so I knew that that was the answer straight away, whereas nobody else got that. So it does overlap.
Yeah, sorry, I thought you said G to start with, and I was thinking of the forces of when you're going side to side. But no, jig. Cars go on jigs to straighten them out again after they've been in crashes and stuff like that. So yeah, no, fantastic that you've been able to do that. And Rachel, how are you finding it? Making sure that Daniella does all that vital schoolwork and doesn't sit there stripping her engines down and redoing the brakes and everything.
To be fair, she just cracks on, don't you? I say, oh, have you got any homework to do when we're on the way to track? And she'll say, yeah, I've got like maths and science and some engineering to do. But a lot of that's online now since COVID. There's a lot of technology that makes that easier and quicker for them. But she does tend to just get on with it and then come and tell us how well she's done at school. I think for us, in the opposite way around, we think that the education she's had from the motorsport career so far has been massive. So there's the geography of the country, because we travel all around the country to get to the tracks. Again, the mechanics. So Daniella has done a lot of the mechanics on her own kart. Not all the kids do, but Daniella was like, I want to learn. So you'd rebuild your own carburetor in the kitchen. The cat would be like, what's these giant spanners and tires everywhere? You know, the whole house is taken over by different things. But yeah, I think the skills she's learned, hands-on skills, and then working as a team, also meeting different people. So you're meeting people from different areas, different ages, different backgrounds and jobs. So all of that side of things is massively important, I think, in life education. We've also met with quite a few of Daniella's sponsors or prospective sponsors. So that's been a case of being in a meeting room with directors and managers. So it's all practice for interviews when she's older. And I think Daniella will be probably one of the few kids that won't be nervous and just be like, oh, hi, nice to meet you.
It's amazing. You know, I think I've said for several years now, I think our education system needs a big overhaul, because you know, being in business myself and working with many clients over the years that I have, the skills with which our younger generation are coming out of schools with aren't correlating with going into the workplace. You know, having, you know, back when I came out, you know, I'd never sent an email. The internet was only just really kind of a thing coming out. So you had to sort of learn all those skills, but how to communicate, how to have a phone conversation with somebody in a professional commercial environment. So you're really exposing yourself and giving yourself those vital skills for later on in life, for sure. So yeah, good luck with that. How to do a podcast, yeah, exactly. Web technology, you know, the website, and doing sort of blogs and everything that people a lot younger than me are all into and seem to be able to do with ease. So yeah, I do want to talk about it, because I don't see any reason why we shouldn't, but getting into motorsport is always very difficult for anybody. It's expensive, you know, it requires lots of commitment, dedication, funding, sponsors, and all the rest of it. And let's face it, if you're a young lad getting into it, you know, you've got your dad there, and it's, you know, it's just kind of the norm. But you're a girl, a young lady, a young woman, and I'm interested to hear the warts and all from what you've found trying to get into the sport and progress through the sport. Let's make it balanced, you know, the good and bad, you know, the things that you've seen that you've been able to change, or conversations that you've seen starting to be had where change is happening, and then maybe some thoughts around, you know, what you think could change and should change.
I'd say motorsport is quite equal, because it's one of the many sports where girls can run at the top and boys can run at the top equally. So in the Daniel Ricciardo Series Championship, I finished 4th, which was pretty good out of over 30 drivers with only 3 girls, 4 girls, and 2 of those girls were within the top 5, me included. So I don't see being female as a barrier as such. I'd say with the new coming programme of the F1 Academy, that definitely helps draw more women into the sport, not just as drivers, but as mechanics, engineers, analysts, all the jobs that are available within motorsport.
Yeah, and when we had a chat previously, you said something interesting that it's also potentially down to the parents, you know, thinking that girl wouldn't be interested in motorsport in that way. You know, obviously if you've got if you're a dad and you've got a young boy, you want him to do football and racing and all that kind of stuff. I think maybe then the stigma or the starting point is with the parents and the kids sort of saying, hey dad, you know, I really like racing, you know, can we go? It's something I'm interested in, and sort of starting there.
Yeah, I do believe it stems from the parents probably more than the children, because the children will probably want to do it, but then it's initially up to the parents to say, well, you can do it, because we can't afford ourselves as children. We don't have jobs to go out and, you know, provide for ourselves yet. So it takes awareness from parents, I suppose.
I think I was one of the traditional girls growing up, where I did ballet and played with girl stuff. And Daniella, she was one of them where your dad was like, right, do you want to play rugby? Do you want to try this? And I think you tried a bit of everything, but actually preferred the high risk, adrenaline fueled thing. So yeah, for Daniella, it's been a bit different, hasn't it?
I'm just starting that journey. My daughter is 4, and I've been teaching her golf since she was probably 18 months old. She's now having some lessons professionally and tennis lessons. She really likes that. But then, you know, we can be singing and dancing to Frozen and all the Disney stuff in the car and or in the living room, because it is about that sort of balance. Or she'll be wearing one of her Disney princess dresses and a pair of wellies helping me weed the garden, you know. So she hopefully is sort of getting that that balance of things. So with all this stuff going on, how do you get time to lead, dare I say it, a normal life? You know, you've obviously got busy time with the racing, your education. How do you find time to sort of relax and enjoy yourself?
I enjoy myself at racing. That's what I enjoy doing. That's what I want to do as a career. The community within racing is great. We're all friends, so whenever we go racing, I have all my friends there. So I socialise more with them than I do with my school friends. I'd say that the friends that I've made at racing are friends for life, whereas friends that you meet at school, you might just drift apart from them. But because we already live so far apart, we keep in touch, and we have a very strong bond despite, you know, being competitors as well.
I suppose you've got the same interests. You all love the racing, so you've got that to begin with as well. But yeah, and in the evenings at track, it's when everything stops and there's no more racing, the kids can all run around the track and they're all playing football or exploring the local countryside and seeing the wildlife and finding the sheep.
You know, you're not sat in front of an Xbox, right? You know, you're not sat in front of a PlayStation, or if you are, you're playing Gran Turismo or something like that. You know, it's good that you're out there in nature. That's great. Where should we go now? I've got a real funny one for you here. If you found a magic genie lamp and you had your 3 wishes, what would you wish for?
So I'd give one of my wishes to someone who needs it a lot more than me, because I feel as though my path in life right now is quite, I wouldn't say clear, but we're making it through.
Yeah,
Definitely. And then another wish, I'd like to meet Ayrton Senna, which is another one of my like idols. He is one of the greatest racers in history. And then I don't really know for the third one.
About flying.
Yeah, I'd like to fly a plane because I like planes. So maybe a fighter jet.
Yeah.
Sitting with Tom Cruise or something.
Who seemingly has a license for everything on the planet.
Yeah, it does. That might help actually, so you could borrow one of his planes. Yeah.
Yeah. What would be a typical sort of race weekend? When does it start and end? You know, just so we can get a sense of the sort of dedication and time involved in what you're doing.
I'd say a race weekend never ends because we'll be going to track on the Friday night, but up until that, the whole week we'll be preparing and planning what we're going to do. So my dad will plan when he gets home from work, and Rachel will plan the packing for the motorhome and what we need to take with us, and the clothes, because you can't forget clothes. That might be quite a disaster. So
that's called project management, by the way. So in business, that's called project management skills, having to make sure that everything is there on time when you need it, and sort of planning those sequence of events is a huge skill that businesses look out for. You know, can you plan and look ahead and see when things need to happen in a sequence or in parallel? So great skills there. So I interrupted there. Yeah. So the Friday, and then getting to
Friday
track.
night, and then heading to track on the Friday night, or with my friends Friday night. My dad goes out with his friends. We call them his husbands because,
Okay.
you know,
having a beer.
Yeah. And it's just
Research. He's doing research, right?
Doing research. Yeah, he actually says that. He says his information gathering to make sure he's learned everything he needs to do about the different sprockets or the different type of oil
fuel
that we now need, or he information gathers.
And then obviously you have your Saturday, which is test day. Sometimes there's Friday test days, but typically it's Saturday test day, and then on the Sunday it's the race day, and then you go home Sunday night, and it's quite packed and busy, and a bustling atmosphere.
Exhausted. Wow, God. I'm exhausted just hearing all of that. You know, I play a game of golf and a game of tennis. But so you mentioned obviously, or I mentioned this. You know, it's an expensive sport and a career path you're on. You've managed to be lucky enough to secure some sponsors along your way. I don't typically do this, but if you want to give a shout out to those people that have been supportive to you over the years.
So if I can name them. Motor Fuel Group, Miller Developments, Frost Restoration, Auto Trail, Sure Deodorant, Rock Oil.
These companies on our t-shirts have helped with things. So we've got Pure Drive, Spinneys, I can't see where it is, Spinneys, Seas Bath and Body, Burton Coffee, DC UK, which is the Lucky Duck, Rock and Roll Sweets,
and your dogs,
and Super Vet Safety.
Okay. And finally, Rachel, if people listening and watching this feel compelled to get in touch to want to help support Daniella in that career going forward, of course, I'm sure there would be welcome conversations about any and all kind of sponsorship. Do you want to just sort of share ways in which people can help?
Yeah, definitely. So we've just had a website go live for Daniella. So it's DaniellaSuttonRacing.com. And on that it tells Daniella's story, obviously, and there's going to be blog updates on there. That has all the information on how to get in touch with us. So there's the email address, and there's also a contact form on there that you can just drop a message if you're interested in anything. Also on that website, there's a specific sponsorship section. So there's information about large sponsorship packages for companies that want to invest a large amount into Daniella's future, and what they get in return for that. So obviously it's a two-way thing, a partnership, and hopefully to encourage business to business as well with Daniella's circle of sponsors. We've also got the DS50 Club. So this is for people, individuals, small companies that want to invest a small amount in. So they are either £50 a month or £500 in one go. And again, it tells you on there what you get for that in return. So in our heads, we think if we can, for example, gather at least 100 of the DS50s, and then separate to that get, say, 10 large sponsors, we feel, or more if anyone wants to join, we feel that would get Daniella into the next steps of her career, headed towards that FIA academy, F1 academy, hopefully. So yeah, all the information you'd need to get in touch is on there. So email, phone, however you want to get in touch, then please do.
And you, Daniella, if people want to follow your story, you as an individual, I assume you're on social these days?
Yeah, so social media is a big part as well, to get my name out there, get my face out there, sell me as the product, I suppose. So most, if not all of my handles are Daniella Sutton Racing. So my TikTok handle is daniella.sutton_racing, and the same for my Instagram. My Facebook page is just Daniella Sutton Racing. And I think my Twitter's Racer Daniella, but I don't really use Twitter that much, that often, because the other socials tend to work better, I found.
I know, Rachel, I know obviously, Rachel, you and I spoke about LinkedIn, and that's something that you'll get linked up to the website there, so people can follow that story on there. Obviously, there's a huge business community on there, a great potential pool for you to get in contact with. Daniella, Rachel, it's been a real pleasure to spend some time with you, hear your story. It's certainly inspiring to me. As soon as Mia can reach the pedals, I'm going to take her racing, and hopefully she can take some inspiration from your commitment, dedication, and drive in motorsport. So hopefully more young people, more young women, and indeed the parents recognize that girls like racing just like boys. So I wish you the best of success for the future, and take care. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, and thank you for letting us have this podcast. It's been great. Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure.
Brilliant. And that's all for this episode of Business Source. Thanks for joining us.